Yeah, and like I said, I haven't seen anything that was like, oh wow, that's way too much. So I think we could say that some things got missed on budgeting, which
Well, I was
doesn't.
comparing it to actuals.
Oh,
I think
actual,
what
okay.
it's telling us is we've got more people, or some people didn't work full-time.
Yeah.
And when you
Yeah.
look at each department
Yeah.
where there was a big difference, like Lori's department. Well, Lori didn't work most of the year.
Right.
So,
Yep.
but she's working
But
this
she
year.
will be, yeah.
And so you were able to explain most of it, but then when we got honed in on it, Justina's also, I assumed, a certain amount of overtime and all that. Justina's got the history of what the actual hours everybody worked,
Yep,
overtime hours.
yep, and there was like, in some of the overtime, what you estimated was a little bit
Yeah.
higher. And so we can adjust that number and give an average, but I think at the end of the day, if we have a little bit higher of an expectation, I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, to budget a little more,
Yeah,
as opposed if they come under, but that way you know.
Wasn't that $750,000 for the commissioners?
Well, I was hoping it went the other way so we could put it in the
I remember that's all under the table. Oh.
Mike, you're not supposed to. We're being recorded. So,
yeah.
okay, keep
Yeah,
going.
so it's almost done. What the my side, so on the spreadsheet, it's very simple, and but I did each department, and like I said, I think have 2 more to finish. But I think I do need to sit down with you and get, if there are any new people or if there's some people that aren't here, we can get them off. I'm just not totally sure with everybody yet. But I think once that's done, I think then we can compare it to and decide, you know, together,
Sure.
you know, this is what you want me to start putting in the worksheet. Because I want to start inputting numbers, but I don't want to do that until we have a collective
I think
agreement
we're really close to
Yeah.
wages. Now, did I send you, there's a report that Cheryl sent me that is a list of everybody that works for us and what they make per hour. That's what I based that on.
I don't have that.
Let me send you that.
Okay.
And then there was a report that gave their workers' comp code. And so, you know, that's wrong. You know, so it's,
Great.
so
Okay.
where we were all screwed up, a lot of it was in the payroll burdens. You know, they had the wrong workers' comp, they were not tracking the right SOS.
And I think Pam was here and she
Yeah.
said that everything looks great, which was awesome. Great, so that's a move in the right direction too. So the numbers are looking, I think, relatively great. And I think once I'm able to have those exact numbers you want me to put in, then I can start manipulating the numbers in each department on the worksheet, and I can bring those to you guys, and then you can decipher whether you think it's feasible or not. I haven't received everybody's budget worksheet. I plan on today, hopefully sending out some emails, so maybe today or Monday, they can start bringing those back into me, or I can just pop in their office and be like, hey, I need it. Thank you.
Well, you know, that is excellent. You know, and you said you're kind of doing your own kind of labor sheet.
Yep,
It's just important to me that you understand all those variables, and
yeah,
you're convinced in your mind that we've covered everybody.
yeah,
And my sheet is just, because it's hard to use somebody else's sheet, although
Yeah.
it's kind of straightforward, but it really isn't, because you got to take all these departments and
Yeah.
move them into these, this
Well,
department has so much for wages.
I think it's great to have and great to build on, but I don't want to change anything on your sheet, right? So,
Yeah,
you know,
so
the way I look at it is we have your sheet literally has everybody and everything, and those numbers you can go in every year and, you know, you can manipulate it a lot easier than I can. And so I think it's a great one to build off of and then compare to our actuals every year. And then we'll just keep, you know, working at it to get as close as we can. But I think that's a great place to start, because at least now we have an understanding of where it's all coming from. So,
Well, and I like the fact that you're doing your own to
Yeah.
make sure that you understand it, and that's really more important that you understand it.
yep,
The idea though is that, like, we've got a meeting with Justin,
yeah, I saw that.
and if you see the list, like I'm
Yes.
saying, okay, we're gonna determine that you agree with your labor.
Great.
And he told me I'm wrong about my labor.
Oh,
And it's-
did he?
And it's, I didn't realize this, but DES, Darren, I knew Darren was full-time DES.
Okay.
Justin is half-time fire protection and quarter-time DES.
Yeah, in that order.
And he's only working 3/4 time. I think he should be full, I think he's trying to somehow, I think he needs to get paid full-time if he's working full-time.
Okay.
So, but that's a separate discussion.
Okay.
But then, so we need to budget it right, but I don't think it's being tracked. It may not be, I don't know how it's being tracked when they actually do the payroll. So we need to make sure,
Okay.
I think
But I think
Darren's
it's probably
salary is being
tracked right,
paid by
'cause-
a grant.
well, but it's really all codes. You know, what codes is his labor going to?
Well, and I was hoping that I could get his phone number from one of you guys so I could call him and ask him what, because I want to make sure I get all the right funds printed out and everything so we have what their numbers are.
Sure,
right now.
sure. Now, he's 2340,
Okay.
and then his capital improvement funds, let me see here. You could still call him, but,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I have everything put together for his.
yeah, that's excellent. Let me see here. But it's in that PowerPoint thing that I sent you, but you kind of gotta know where to look for. I'm gonna print the page.
And then same for DES.
Well, DES is in 1000, but you're gonna have to call out the DES account codes.
Okay.
And, you know, the one code that I gave you in the labor sheet was labor piece, but I don't know if there's DES, well, that code that I gave you in the labor sheet,
Yeah.
that's probably the DES codes that goes labor and then it'll have all the other things.
Okay.
So if you were to pull that, you'd see
Okay.
the different object codes that are in it. I found it. Let me at least give you the codes for that. All right. So you got, okay, 440 is, 404 was capital improvement fire. And then 4041 is capital improvement for Hot Creek. 4042 is capital improvement for Millstone. 4043 is capital improvement for Bull Mountain Fire. 4044 is capital improvement for Dean Creek. 4045 is capital improvement for County Fire. There's not going to be a lot of activity past 440,
Okay.
but they still, it's still, you gotta look at it.
Okay. And then you said 2340 is.
Yeah, it's fire.
Okay. Well, I'll get all that.
You can still talk to him, I mean, you know, I don't
Yeah, I'm
want to
gonna give him a
discourage, I
call.
love the fact that
Yeah.
you're getting involved, you're talking
Yeah.
to these guys.
Well, and I think too, I had one discussion on Wednesday that was like, I am so glad that you're answering my questions because, and talking to me about this, because they're like, honestly, you can just put whatever numbers and I have no clue. And I'm like, well, I want you to know, I want you to understand it and ask questions. And so is Barb upstairs. Barb. She's like, because I want to know, but I am not going back to college. She said, but I am not going back to college for this.
Who said that?
Barb.
Barb. Well, she's great, the
Yes.
biggest thing for her is her to agree on the labor.
Yep.
Well, because she'll fill out her budget sheet.
Yep, and she did. She brought it to me because she had asked me on Monday, and then she came in on Wednesday, and she sat down and we talked about it, and everything look really great. There was nothing, there's a couple areas where she said she doesn't even think she'll be having any activity in there. She crossed out a few saying that she doesn't need those anymore, and, yeah, so that one went really great. She agreed on every, and then I told her, I said, we'll come back together on the labor piece, and work with you there. But yeah, she came down and talked for a while too, so.
Well, that is excellent.
And I'll send you, I didn't want to keep sending the worksheet until it was done, because I keep adding, you're probably, I don't want you to have to save over that, you know.
No.
So I will send it on Monday, it'll be completed then. And I'll
I'm
go
glad,
through
you
it.
know, I'm really, keep doing what you're doing.
Okay.
You're keeping yourself,
Good.
you're learning, you're moving forward. I think we're closer than we think to putting a budget together. There'll be a
Yeah.
lot of things we'll have to
Yeah,
come up with
pieces
on
to
our
put,
own.
yep,
You know, but, the biggie is those main departments that
great,
have the biggest
Right.
labor.
great. I also talked to, and I want to say her name is Cassandra, and I think we talked about this already, and I probably got her name wrong. But I have it written down, to talk to you about it. And it's about the ARPA funds, but it's for, I'm gonna go get the piece of paper really quick, so I don't. Yes, here.
Yeah, split salary terms are kind of interesting.
Well, I said, Justin, you're not full-time? He goes, no. You know, are you working full-time?
Really?
So,
That's what I want.
yes, so Cassandra with Great West Engineering, so I spoke with her, and she wanted invoices from the Musselshell County Melstone Water and Wastewater Systems Improvement Program. So what I sent for the project code that I had for this one, and Stephanie sent her the same ones, and I guess that those were not for the funds that she was talking about. That was for Central Montana Regional Water Authority project. So
She wants the project number that will have the Melstone on it.
right, and so I'm not sure. I have not found, unless you guys know which one that is. I'll have to dig deeper into finding that one, because she said maybe there isn't any invoices for it right now.
Well, here's the problem. So we got this sort of complicated grant for Melstone's water and sewer improvements.
Okay,
This is beyond our study to get them water, which is the one, the regional water authority grant. This has to do with upgrades to their, and we got grants to fix their pumps,
okay,
run some lines,
right,
and then do a study of their sewer system, so that they could get grants to fix it.
yeah, 'cause she said, $152,392,
Yeah.
and Melstone is supposed to receive
Now, I don't know
9.
what the project number is, but the problem with that is, part of those costs, so you should be able to get all those costs, we paid invoices. The way it worked is Melstone would send us invoices,
Right,
we'd pay them,
right,
and then we would be reimbursed.
right.
She's asking for those invoices because we
Right.
haven't been reimbursed.
Well, I guess Stephanie sent her invoices, and so did I, and we both sent the same ones. And but she said that's not the project she's talking
Huh.
about. She said, right, and so, because I thought, oh, well, we're right on the same page, we both sent the same invoices. But, so that's she said that's a different project.
Here, what's her project that she wants?
The Musselshell County Melstone Water and Wastewater Systems Improvement Project. So, but what she said is, maybe there just hasn't been anything done towards that, towards Melstone. Because she said, but yeah, the invoices that Stephanie and I both sent were the same. We matched in that area, but she said that is not the, that's
I
through
think she
Central
might be
Montana.
mistaken.
Who is that that's asking that?
Cassandra Quint.
And she
So here
is
you
the
guys
grant
can-
administrator for Great West.
So that's the email she
Oh.
sent me, and then this is the actual, yeah, you can look. This is the actual plan that she said, that's the grant she's referring to. So maybe we just have the wrong project code.
Maybe.
And there's another project code where, but that's what we both sent her was the same, so she's like, oh, well, you guys are on the same page.
Well, I can.
But she said she thinks we're talking about the LRFR funds, if that's,
This is it,
I love Farfetch, yeah.
this is 2394, keep 2994, and just for kicks, since this is your time, this is the one, that's exactly right, we've got a $152,000 grant. I don't know how much we've been reimbursed for that grant, but first let me get you these, this budget stuff for, labor claim. I'm gonna say labor.
This is what she had sent me with that. So, yeah, whenever you're done looking, I'll just.
I'll get you. All right, I'm sending you those two things that have a list of all the employees, their ID,
Oh,
and
fantastic.
their workers' comp code.
Okay,
Now I'm gonna call up the, I'm gonna get in Black Mountain
okay,
and give you the project code.
okay. And maybe I added, I don't know,
It
maybe.
sounds like you did have the right project.
I know, well, because I asked Chris, she was in that day, and I asked her, and she showed me where they were for Muscle Shell, because there was different funds, right, allocated to each, to Milestone, Muscle Shell. But yeah, she said those invoices, she said, would not fall under that project. She said that's through Central Montana. So this is
Well-
something different. And so I said, well, I don't know.
Let me see here. I'll show you here. I'm gonna get in there and look at all the project codes.
Okay,
But it sounds like you did, because if Stephanie's, that's the one, you know, we worked with her. on
Right.
that.
yeah, she's like,
So-
oh, well, you both, sent to the same ones and are, match up there, nothing's missing. She said, but that's under Central Montana, that's not under the project that we're asking for.
Well, there
invoices."
was Central Montana Regional Water Authority was,
And she
we
said-
spent 176 grand, our part, doing a study to get water to Nelson.
Yeah. And she's saying that's what those invoices are for,
Oh, well.
and that's not what she's looking for.
Okay, then maybe it was the one, but I doubt it. Stephanie wouldn't give them that.
But Stephanie, I didn't see that Stephanie replied back, unless she just replied to Cassandra, so I don't know if what her communication has been with Stephanie, but I just figured I'd bring it to you guys, and if you knew of another project, but then, she also put in there, maybe there just isn't any invoices for that project yet. So it seems like there's a lot of movement in that area, and in that project.
Well, here's where it's really at. Project is completed, money's been spent. She's working to administer the grants and we can get reimbursed.
Oh, so it's
So
been
we've spent
done.
we're out, we financed
We just have to
the whole thing.
locate, okay,
And then once we get the invoices,
Then we get the
she'll
money.
put it in for payment and we'll
Oh.
get paid. So
Okay.
it's pretty important, really.
okay.
So I'm getting into Black Mountain right
Okay.
now. And actually, I think it's excellent that you're not letting this issue go, that you're bringing it to our
Yeah, she called me in the evening on Wednesday, and I thought, okay,
There
well,
he is.
I will get that going, and
We read what you put together and it's riddled with errors.
Probably is.
We
I
discourage you
don't
doing
let them
anything
say
like
that, they
that.
already said they liked
Anything
it.
like that in the future, we discourage it.
I just hang out in the office and get paid. That's what I do.
Letter to you.
No, it was just, there probably is some stuff that needs to be changed. It's just kind of a discussion point.
Yeah.
More than
Good
anything.
place to start.
I think it's excellent piece of work. Just between you and me.
Yeah, because I finally figured out what all that money is that's in there.
Yeah, we didn't want you seeing
We
that.
don't want to know
about any of
Yeah.
I told him it's a secret, you're not allowed in on the secrets.
I was like,
You You have no authority.
Probably figure out what all this is before I spend all of it.
It should be project 106.
And so that's what I told, and she
ARPA
said,
Millstone Water District improvements.
and she says no. She said that goes under Central
Now,
Montana.
the Central Montana
No.
one is,
Unless we had a coding error.
Central Montana Millstone Route Study for Quality Water 116.
Okay, well,
I've got a nice little sheet that was tracking the invoices.
okay.
I can,
Well, the invoices I printed and I attached to what I just handed you, that packet there, so I printed out the grant, I printed out her email, and then all the invoices I scanned over to her that she said would not fall under that project, so if you
well,
want
you
to.
see, these invoices aren't, this is Central Montana Regional One.
It is.
But look at the claim. Because that was all under
They
106.
combine them?
So, and like I said, Stephanie sent her the same ones. So
That's,
it could be a coding error, or I don't know. There's an error there's an error
Well,
somewhere.
let me look into this.
I did a study on the.
I'm gonna leave this with you.
Hail did.
Yeah.
And then when you're
They
done,
are really.
Yeah,
Give it back.
we'll look into, what I'm gonna do is I gotta kind of brush my mind off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I found that we have an ARPA account called 2990 or 2991.
uh-huh.
Some of the costs for Millstone got charged to the CARE Act.
Okay, so
They wouldn't
that's,
have those invoices. And it's like 12 grand or something. But that's, so I'm aware of
okay,
what the project is.
Okay.
I think what's confusing her is that might have been a claim that had both.
okay.
And somebody just coded it all wrong.
Okay.
But the thing that Stephanie sent her, that makes me think that maybe
Okay.
she's got
Well,
a.
I'll just email her back today and let her know that
Let
we
her know we're
discussed
looking
it.
into
Yep.
it, we appreciate it,
Okay.
and we will,
Okay,
um,
I will let her know.
I'm gonna use the restroom. Anything else?
Nope.
Excellent work,
That's all.
keep it up,
Okay,
keep moving
will
forward.
do.
So, on the experiment station decided to do a study on hail damage.
They did, yeah, they had to, they decided that was more important than the field day. They had to figure out what was all messed up.
I'd already emailed and said I couldn't make field day because I'm in Baker, but then I found out there was no field day.
Yeah, I know, I was kind of disappointed, I was kind of excited to get down there, but.
So now they're pivoting and doing a hail damage study?
No, the
No.
research center got destroyed
It was
from the hail, and because
It
it's
was an impromptu study.
yeah, it was. They're gonna see what
I'm erasing that then.
What?
I wrote it down.
they're gonna figure out what crop you can plant in mid-June after a hailstorm in a wheat field.
Well, there will be some, yeah.
Sorghum?
Yeah, I just talked to
Corn?
I just talked to a guy south of town about planting some millet or some sorghum right now, and I said, well, if you can get it in like the next week and a half, it might be okay.
And that ocean study, they could plant that anytime. Ocean comes up.
So that's like one of the things I'm talking about with this
And
grant.
ocean. Well, I'm sure they're figuring something out. Did it hell on damage?
So you wanna walk through this?
Yeah.
No.
And see, some of this stuff, if you were talking about the stuff I give you,
Yeah, I think you put a lot of effort in this, and I think there's a lot of good stuff in here, and so it probably warrants us taking a step through it.
well, some of this stuff is because I'm kind of pivoting from trying to do as much programming in the summers, because when you guys saw the turnout for the insurance deal, And just because people are busy, so I'm like, well, if I can't do educational programs in the summer, I can offer different types of programs or information that people can use, and then just focus on programming in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the idea behind that. And working on a little thing this morning to try to explain it a little more. But, so this is also some stuff I want to do with the, it's the same thing that's somewhat in there, just explains a couple of things a little more that like would be summer, spring to summer and fall focused stuff. Instead of maybe doing like actual in-person programs.
Well, as long as I got commercial rents.
Is,
That's all you get.
what'd you say?
I said, as long as I get commercial rents, I'll be, commercial credits.
Commercial spring credits.
Yeah.
Are you trying to sell them on your idea?
I'll give you the MBA number.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I just, oh, sorry, I think, have you talked to them about it yet?
They've read it over.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's a good and interesting idea to try and encourage some new possible ideas.
Sure.
He brought it down and we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, you're up now, it's your turn.
Yeah, you're up.
This is your one shot.
Well, they have a lot of papers in front of them now. So.
Oh, okay.
The first thing is the allocation funding plan.
Well, hang on, this is what I'm looking at.
Right, that, yep, that's
Okay.
strategic funding.
Strategic funding plan, and that's good wording. Strategy.
You could make it better if you called it based upon best evidence practices,
Yeah.
whatever the hell.
So
that
they
is.
can-
Depends on whether we're talking about
Okay,
county attorney or extension service.
Little
Different
more.
verbiage.
Yeah. Yeah. Legal or scientific, different writing styles. Yeah, so obviously we're in a problem with the cash balance is in fund 2290. You're gonna have to go somewhere with it, from what I understand.
yeah,
Either
we're gonna
capital
move, we're gonna,
improvements
the
or-
part of why you got that was because they cut the sheriff's money.
Yeah.
And a big chunk of that's going back to the sheriff. Shouldn't have done it.
Right, as far as mills go. you're
Yeah,
saying.
as far as
Yeah.
the mills, so I can tell you, but this is what I kind of told my view on this thing is, knowing what cash you have is part of it, but the big picture is, we need to look at what it is you're proposing to do. And then, once you get the cash numbers after the transfers,
Yeah, you
we
can
have,
look at your
we
actual
actually
cash
made,
flow.
we already made the transfers to the sheriff, so if this is what it is right now.
Yes, this is what it
that's
is right
you
now.
got.
Yeah, yeah, because his revenue supports what he
Yeah.
has.
Yeah.
Usually, yeah.
Well, and then and we'd have to go over some cash flow for all these numbers and stuff like that, and including the innovation grants mainly, and the proposal I had for the fairgrounds manager, because I didn't know exactly what you guys were thinking on that, as far as funding it and the layout of it in the county structure. So this was just.
No, that's one we already, when I put together a labor sheet, I already figured we needed somebody in that role,
Right.
and but, I don't think I figured 50, 60 grand, but we need to
Yeah.
talk about that role. It's, without somebody on point in that role, I don't think the fairgrounds is gonna go anywhere. I think it's gonna, so it's really important, but it's gonna really affect the operating budget. And kind of what I told everybody is, let's figure out what we think we wanna do. And obviously, the Fair Board has got a big role in this, but, and if there's not enough money, we can talk about it.
Well, I don't know that there's not enough money from the looks of it.
Okay.
There was a couple different things on here. Splitting some with the extension service, especially in the first few years, because I guess, well, did you guys already change the mills for the extension service?
No, we haven't changed any mills.